Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we've got an inbox review on what I'm pretty sure is going to be my next project. This is the Hasegawa 1/48 boxing of the Typhoon Mark 1B with the teardrop canopy. This is a 1999 mold, but it's held up to the test of time because Edouard and its Hallery both have used it, and Edouard used it fairly recently. So it's gotten fairly good reviews I've seen over the years. So I haven't built a 48th subject in a while, so it's one of my favorites subjects to build other than the Spitfire, and I actually haven't done a Typhoon in the scale, so looking forward to trying it. So anyway, there's your standard nice looking box art. So we'll take it off and we'll show you what's inside. I have opened the sprues just to make it a little bit easier. There's quite a bit of plastic in the kit this time. So we'll start with some landing gear, some of the cockpit assemblies, things like that. So I'm just going to adjust my lighting slightly to help you folks see it a little bit better. So starting off, we've got the instrument panel there, fairly well detailed. Landing gear wheels included a slightly weighted section. The engine exhausts, at least one of them, the two tail sections. They look fairly nicely detailed. They come in several parts. So this is obviously one half. And fairly simple. Panel lines on there, nothing too exciting. The cockpit seat, which I've already loosened a little bit off the sprue, and some of the side interior spaces for that. Moving on, we've got one half of the fuselage. This does feature an insert system for the cockpit sides, and I have been told you've got to really watch your fit there. It will work. It works very well, but you just have to kind of make sure you test fit a few times and make sure everything's behaving itself. As you can see, pretty plain other than that. Some of the landing gear doors are there and a tail wheel. And then we've got one section here. This is just the back part, the firewall, and the gun sight looks like. Typhoon was actually a very successful ground attack aircraft. It was supposed to be a follow-up to the Spitfire, but it just didn't do well at high altitude, so they ended up using it as a very effective ground attack aircraft on the Western Front, particularly after D-Day. This is part of the sprue for some of the rockets. Comes with 8 underwing rockets, so fairly well detailed. You've got the fins there. I'm sure one could hit the photo etch side of things and get that. There's the second sprue with the tail planes and some more stuff there. Again, nice, fairly crisp molding for the time. Then we've got the massive propeller that the Typhoon has. When you compare that to some other 1/48 scale propellers, you can see it's quite large. Then we have the second part of the half of the fuselage. Again, with a few other details for the spinner, etc. The front exhaust, etc. And then the wing section. It's a 3-part wing, basically, top, bottom. This includes fairly limited detail in the landing gear base. I have heard some reviews have mentioned for once the wings are attached, there is sometimes a 1 millimeter gap between the wing roots and the fuselage, and apparently just putting a bit of homemade sprue and spreading it, the two halves of the fuselage will help that. More of the engine assembly. Here's the insert section here we were talking about, with some detail and a couple of parts one puts in their throttles, etc. As I say, these need to be fit a little bit carefully, a bit of care needs to be taken. Then the two wings, looking quite good. You see appropriate sections, including the cannon ports right there. Again, fairly fine molding. That's actually quite nice. And then following up with the second set of underwing rockets. And then we've got, of course, the appropriate stuff for landing gears and the canopy. The canopy looks in very good shape, fairly clear from what I can see, no blemishes. And landing gear lights, gun sights, etc., etc. So yeah, it looks fairly good. So I'm just going to put that back, keep it safe. And then we'll go on to the instructions and the decals. So, instructions. This is a fairly straightforward instructions. We'll look at the decals first. So, fairly good. These have held up. This was a sealed box, so they've held up. Obviously, you have the invasion stripes are taking a good part of the decals, although I'm planning to mask those. It'll be interesting to make sure I line up the landing gear doors and things like that. You've got a decal for the cockpit instrument panel if you wish, and a few stencils here and there. It's fairly good looking. Standard Hasegawa for the time instruction sheet. You've got your parts layout all the way to sprue T. Actually, quite a few. You've got your standard callouts of Mr. Hobby colors. And the instructions are fairly straightforward. Basically, your cockpit assembly, which goes in as a tub. We talked about the inserts, making sure they fill in well. Your wings go in the cockpit assembly. Again, this is where you may have to watch your fit. Make sure you check that first. And then, of course, your landing gear and all the other little bits. The next page covers the underwing rockets, propellers, landing gear, etc., and some of the final assembly, including the canopy and the engine exhaust. And then we have the markings. There's two markings available. Number 247 Squadron of the Royal Air Force, and that has the invasion stripes, and then number 183 Squadron of the Royal Air Force as well. So yeah, overall, fairly nice looking. So yeah, I'm going to look forward to building this one. I haven't done a 148th in a while, at least a British subject. I do enjoy doing them. To me, they're like a palate cleanser, depending what they are. I love my 148 subjects. But yeah, overall, it looks like it's going to go, hopefully be a fun, uneventful build. I don't know how much aftermarket or if I'll do some fabric seat belts, etc. I've got a few things in the stash I can use to make this look a little bit better. So we'll see how it works. So as I say, this is the Typhoon Mark 1B with the teardrop canopy. You can still find it in quite a few places, and as I say, there's been quite a few boxings of it over the years, so the mold's held up in time. That's it for this time. Don't forget the normal like and subscribe, and don't forget to also check us out over on the Scale Model Podcast at scalemodelpodcast.com. Thank you, and be well.